So I feel it is important to say right off the bat, even though fat lot of good it's going to wind up doing me in the end, I'm still going to have some asshole who's going to be like, I can't believe you're in favor of this. But there have been many times in the past where I've been critical of feminism and the goofier things that they decide to complain about, wage gap and so on and so forth. And I've said repeatedly, you know, there are places in the world where there are real humanitarian atrocities being committed against women. Why don't you guys pay attention to those places? Why is it always these first world problems that you want to fix? Right? One of the biggest places I've been very critical of in this respect is Saudi Arabia. They're not good to their women. Funny how many feminists are all about defending that kind of horse shit. Whatever. They're dummies. It's what they do. So I'm not in favor of what's going on over there. Don't like it. Haven't liked it. Always said it's a problem. That being said, we'll get into the story that we're going to talk about. Canada has also always kind of believed in line with me. It's fucked up what they do over there. And they went to Twitter to talk about how it's not good. Saudi Arabia decided, fuck you guys. We're not trading with you anymore. We're going to kick out all your ambassadors and we're going to start threatening you. Right? Now, I don't think that's a smart move. That's kind of inviting problems. But so far it hasn't gotten to that point yet. Right now, Canada decided to snipe at Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia has decided to punch them in the fucking face over it, right? The allies of Canada, the US, the UK, other places, have all kind of gone, hey man, this is your problem, you guys figure it out, alright? Now, I find it very humorous for many reasons. One of those reasons is Canada is very weak. They're just very weak. They don't have strength. Ever since Justin Trudeau got in charge, that weakness has grown to exponential levels. He is a very weak leader. And he's very into the victimhood thing, right? And I've said, thank God Hillary Clinton didn't get elected, because then we would be weak as well, and we would be into these very weak notions of victimhood and whatnot. So when you portray yourself as a victim, that encourages people to victimize you. Bullies and whatnot. The strong don't care. The strong protect the weak. The weak need protected. And the bullies will always pick on the weak, because they certainly aren't going to pick on the strong, because the strong will just fuck them up. Right? Canada's very weak. They look very weak. They act very weak. There's a lot of things that Canada has done that I'm also not in favor of, such as encouraging weakness in its people. I don't like that. So it amuses me that I said, you guys got to be careful what you do, because you're looking very weak. Sooner or later somebody's going to pick on you, and here we are. It's sort of not distressing, not even really depressing, but I see it as kind of a, we're going to make you guys beg type of situation, as far as the US and the UK and other countries, you know, helping them out with this. They decided to fuck with Saudi Arabia. They called them out for obvious humanitarian concerns. And then they said, well, we started this. I mean, aren't you guys going to help us with this? And for the U.S. to kind of be like, look, man, this is your problem. You decided to fuck with them. What do you want from us? I think that's hysterical. It's the girl in the bar, the drunk girl in the bar, that picks a fight with a dude, and then when the dude's obviously not going to just sit there and take it, they start looking at all the other guys in the bar like, well, aren't you going to stand in to defend me here? Yeah, I started this fight, but do you expect me to take on this man by myself? I'm drunk and little and weak. And it's like, yeah, and that kind of means you should have fucking not started the shit. Right? I think ultimately Canada is going to lose this fight. They're going to have to back down, which is going to make them look that much weaker, which is going to make other bullies want to continue to pick on them. And I think this trend is going to continue as long as they keep trying to stand up to bullies who then punch them in the face. And I think they're going to continue to look at other countries and be like, look, why aren't you helping us with all the fights we're starting? And I think other countries are going to go, because you're starting other fights, dummy, and you're weak. You have no ground to stand on to do these sorts of things. You want to keep playing victim. Victimization is what you're going to get. So, it's a conundrum for me because I think that it's an obvious problem in Saudi Arabia. I think that the way they treat their women is bad. I think that their kind of totalitarian way of dealing with things, such as protesters and whatnot, I don't like that sort of thing. I think of all places in the world, Saudi Arabia is where it is appropriate for people to be protesting the problems within their governmental structure. I think they've got big problems. And it's a shame that we've got millions of protesters in the street bitching about capitalism because they don't understand the system. They don't understand that, in capitalism you need to get a job and actually work hard. They don't get that and they don't like that, so they're bitching about how it exists. Whereas in Saudi Arabia, there's for real fucking issues, and they're not out there going, hey US, why aren't you doing something about Saudi Arabia? It's asinine as fuck, but of all the places where people need to be protesting things that are going wrong in governments, that's one of the big places I can think of where that needs to kind of happen. So, ultimately, Canada is going to make a plea to the populace. They're going to start doing if you're not helping us with this fight, then you're essentially in favor of what they're doing. But, again, as I've said many times, we need to fix ourselves here. We are not internally stable. I think that's a fair thing to say. Internally, the U.S. is not a stable place. And it's because of all of the people who think like Canadians and want to do this victimizing thing where, we're just victims, just give us shit. That's what's destabilizing us internally. That's wherein the conflict lies. It's not a good time for us to get into another Saudi Arabian engagement while we ourselves are not intact. Because essentially what you're going to get is, if the U.S. decides to go after Saudi Arabia, what is it going to be? You think it's going to be a Cold War where we're going to sit there and be like, look, you guys are assholes to your people, and you need to stop doing that shit, and then Saudi Arabia is going to just go, well, fuck you too. You want to stop us? Come stop us. Because they're not in our continent. They're not in the same landmass as us. We can't sit there and go, well, look, we're gonna embargo all your shit because we need their oil. So we can't really. We can. When it all comes down to it, we can, but we don't want to, right? It's gonna have to be a world stage type thing. Every Western country in the world is going to have to essentially go after the Middle East and say, look, we're going to cut you motherfuckers out of everything, and your gold is going to be worth the same as piss if you decide that you're going to continue this shit with your people. You're going to have to get out of the biblical era of crucifying people in the streets, and you're going to have to come into the modern day of being fucking human beings and living in a society with everybody else, or we're going to make sure that you never have the capability to progress, because we're just going to turn your little salt or your little sand flats into glass, and that'll just be the end of you. It's going to have to get to that point, and you're going to have countries that are willing to go that far, to say, look, we will bomb you further into the Stone Ages than you already are, and that's saying something. It has to be a show of massive force on a world scale to ever change these people. That's the only way it's going to happen. Canada going, we don't like you that you've imprisoned some protesters. That ain't going to do it. And then Canada going, well, we said we don't like that, and now we need you guys to help us because they're being mean to us. Motherfucker, stop being a bitch. You started the fight. You're going to have to end it one way or another. And the way it's going to happen is, bitch going to have to back down. That's just the way it is. Or you're going to have to convince everybody else in the world that it is in their best interest to go up against them. Now, they're torturing and making suffer their own people. I would say that that's a prime time for their people to decide to fight against their government and essentially overthrow them. Freedom has a cost, and that cost is in blood and bodies. It takes thousands, if not millions. We've paid our cost, right? We've earned our freedom. And Saudi Arabia, mostly run by men, it's a place where you actually have a patriarchy that's involved in things and oppressing women and whatnot. And the women in that country are going to have to figure out a way to overthrow that sort of regime. Or they're just fucked. That's just the tall and short of it. Either the entirety of the world gets on their side and says, look, we're going to help you ladies out, or they're going to have to do it on their own. You have to grow where you're planted. And the soil needs blood to be free. It's the only way that it works. It's the only way it's ever worked. Every time somebody's ever just been handed freedom, they don't know what to do with it because they didn't have to earn it. So they wind up pissing it away to the next person that says, oh, I'll just do everything for you and make all your choices for you. Isn't that such an easier life? And they go, yeah, it was a lot easier when we didn't have to make our own decisions. That's cool, we'll let you do it. And here we are again, right? So we've played this game before. We've gone this route before. And honestly, I think that's the reason why Donald Trump and the U.S. government and the UK government and all the other governments are like, look, we're not doing this again. Because last time we went in and removed an oppressive regime, we got ISIS. And that was a fucking giant pain in our ass. We're not going to create another vacuum of power for some other asshole to come up and fucking fill it. You guys got to figure your shit out on your own. That's the way it works. So I think it's funny because I kind of look at it in the perspective of the drunk girl in the bar that's picking fights with every guy, and then looking at all the rest of the guys going, why aren't you helping me? Because you're a bitch, and we all see that you're a bitch. You're picking fights with people that you can't win. You should have no reason. Well, you have reason, but you have no right to fucking decide, oh, I'm just going to start picking this fight, and then when the going gets tough, I'm going to look at everybody else to defend me. Bitch, please. Justin Trudeau, you need to get your head out of your asshole and figure out what kind of a country you actually are and what the fuck you're doing. Because playing the victim only works so far. Some point you turn into a bitch, nobody wants to help a bitch out. So stop being a bitch, grow some fucking balls, and if you really want to do something against Saudi Arabia and what they're doing to their people over there, you better figure out a way to get boots on the ground and start the assault. And then when they fight back, when they get even worse against their people, so on and so forth, that's when you go, look, we're trying to make real change in the world. You're all standing around watching us. We need help because this has now become war. And you're starting World War III. I hope you understand that. Right? So there's two choices. You can either suffer in silence and say they're a sovereign country and they can be as mean to their people as they want to be, or you're starting World War III.